Like I don't have to go out and find VC funding for 17 grand a month. It's like I just buy a $200 subscription.
Where do you think that, like, where's the landscape at? Like, where do you think we're heading in the next 3 months, 3 to 6 months ish?
It's hard to say because everything is just speeding up. So, newer, better models coming out like across the board, from frontier models to ones that are just behind. Like I mentioned, a lot of them are getting, as good as the frontier models were like 6 months ago or even 3 months ago. And yeah, the interesting, I think, is like the whole agentic, agents, for the last half a year, everybody's been talking about it, blah, blah, blah. Now I think it's kind of like, it's getting down to the weeds and brass tacks of like actually making these things work properly. And better models help, better harnesses help. And, like you're still dealing with LLM, hallucinations and things like that. But you can build so many guardrails in as well that those hallucinations aren't any worse than like a human forgetting to,
right?
Like, yeah, oh, I'll go do that, and then I totally forgot, right? So we're kind of at that level versus like, not, totally making things up. Like, so overall, they're getting better, and with the proper kind of structure and harness and things like that, it can become very manageable to the level. Like I said, it's like it's kind of at the human level of hallucination.
Yes. You mentioned that, like, because right now Anthropic is kind of leading the way, but you and I talked about this earlier. You were mentioning that OpenAI is developing their own chips.
Yeah, actually, Anthropic just announced was it a week or two ago that they're starting up their own chip design department.
Okay.
But Anthropic's been doing that. I mean, OpenAI has been doing that for a while, and they've actually, even before that, they made a deal with Cerebras, who makes specific chips for inference that are really fast. So that's one thing that, as those systems come online, is like, yeah, these will start to get way faster. So if anybody's done any coding or whatever, and you've watched it as it's, in the terminal, it's doing its stuff, like it'll start to go and then it's done, which has its own dangers, obviously, because it'll suddenly build something, a million lines of code in, 2 minutes. And then it's like, oh, we didn't need to do that.
Yeah.
And you're still burning tokens at whatever cost, right? So, but the efficiencies are starting to come in. So like when GPT 5.6 came out, they had a certain pricing, and was it a month later, they dropped the pricing on the lower models because they had GPT 5.6 Sol, optimize their whole inference chain and everything like that. And they were able to, like with Luna, drop it by 80% their cost. And with Terra, they dropped it 20%. So this kind of recursive self-improvement, and that is going to start coming. So things are going to start faster. They'll have to start to be cheaper, because the reality is right now is anybody using a subscription plan is being, basically we're getting the benefit, all the VC funding that Anthropic and OpenAI are getting. So we're basically being funded by the VCs via these AI providers. And they'll have to start making money at some point, and they can't really afford to lift prices too much. Otherwise, they just won't make enough revenue. So they'll have to just be more efficient, at everything. So, and because waiting around the corner is, very good open weights, open source models that are cheaper to run and stuff like that. So there's pressure from two sides.
I made a post about this. It was either last week or the week before, about how, because I was thinking about, so let's take the Claude Code Max subscription. It's like $200 per month for like 20x usage, or it's like the top one. I think I read somewhere that the actual token usage you get out of that, if you max out your plan, is something like $9,000 worth of tokens.
I think it's actually, if you're at the 20x, it's probably closer to like 17,000 or something like that.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if I remember.
So like double what I was.
Yeah.
thinking. And so with that, I made a post about how like now we have this really good opportunity, and I'll actually pull up the post and read it. But essentially it was, we have this really good opportunity where there's like, I see a transfer of wealth happening because we are being subsidized by these hedge funds and these big multi-billion-dollar tech companies. They're like you just said it, 17 grand worth of tokens at $200 a month. And I think from what I've seen in the financial reporting, it's like it's not profitable right now. No. So they're just losing money, but they're providing this. And so this is what I mean by a wealth transfer, is like we get the benefit of the inference that we're buying from these companies, 17 grand for $200 a month. So we're essentially getting 17 grand worth of tokens.
Yeah.
And so I made a post about how like now, like I don't know if the opportunity will be cheaper than it is right now, because currently the pricing shows that it's not sustainable. But I think they are looking to the future and hoping that they're able to get their costs down and maybe increase pricing down the road to make it sustainable. But from a pure business standpoint, what do you think? Like, it seems like it's not sustainable currently.
Yeah, it's not. Anthropic is probably a little bit closer to being, because the percentage of people using the free tier at Anthropic is fairly low, versus like for OpenAI, it's like 80% of their users don't pay anything. So, so it's they're funding it to just, get people and hoping, and usage. I just saw somewhere like there's a slight uptick of people going from free tier to, the lowest paid tier. People are starting to see the value of it, I guess. And overall, I think what they're counting on too is that just adoption will go up, so they will get more users. Now, obviously on the inference, that's a cost. And, Anthropic has been struggling to have enough compute, so they've had to throttle it. So it's this balance. But the problem with the frontier ones is not only do they have to make money on the inference, but they have to have enough money left over to keep making new models, which is expensive. So yeah, it's hard to say where it all comes out, but like the pressure is there for them to optimize and lower their costs as well as get more paying customers. So where it balances out is hard. But yeah, you're right. I think right now we're totally being, like I don't have to go out and find VC funding for 17 grand a month. It's like I just buy a $200 subscription.
Right. Yes. And because someone did kind of push back on that a little bit, I'll go find the post, because his argument was that, oh no, it's not the cheapest it will ever be because hardware gets cheaper with time. Let me find the post. Okay, so this was what I said. The biggest wealth transfer of this decade might already be happening. I was just watching a breakdown of the unit economics behind many AI companies, and it's wild. Some of the biggest players are spending more to serve each customer than they earn from them. In other words, many users are getting access to incredibly powerful AI tools at prices that may not be sustainable. If that continues, one of two things probably happens. One, the economics eventually have to improve, meaning higher prices, cheaper models, or new revenue streams. Or two, some companies won't survive. Either way, right now we're living through a unique moment. Billions of dollars are effectively subsidizing access to tools that let individuals do the work of entire teams. The people who learn to use AI during this window could build businesses, create leverage, and generate wealth that would have been impossible just a few years ago. Whether there's an AI bubble or not, one thing seems to be clear: the opportunity won't stay this cheap forever. And so I had someone say, this is by Liam, he said, I disagree. The limiting factor is hardware, and hardware gets cheaper over time. Look at Kimi. It can run locally on 8x AMD GPUs. And so I think that was right around when that Kimi model came out that said it was like way cheaper, but like the same performance as Anthropic.
Yeah, but again, it's like, that is, it's per token cost is half the price or whatever, but the amount of tokens it needs to use to do the same amount of work is double. And so your cost is actually pretty close to the same. So like, yes, I think inference cost will go down, but models will get bigger and require right? So like if we didn't improve models at all and we just kept them where they are now, yes, things start to get cheaper because, hardware would, get more efficient. But with all the scaling, there's so much because it's not just the hardware, it's also availability of electricity for these data centers and everything, right? So it's like, and the price of electricity, is a big factor. So it's yeah, it'll be kind of rocky for a while how it plays out. But over time, yeah, I would agree that it will get cheaper. But there's the thing is that there will be a pretty permanent tier or class. So there will be the expensive tiers. You get the latest and the greatest, whatever, if you have the money to pay for it. If you have a little bit less money, you'll be a little bit behind on the intelligence curve with what you can afford. And then depending on your pocketbook, you'll go down the ladder, and it'll be very hard to move up that ladder anymore, because if you're using AI to advance yourself, well, the guy who can afford to pay for more intelligence is going to advance just as faster than you.
So that gap will always be increasing.
That'll be increasing, and it's like just by using AI to catch up won't really work. I mean, obviously, if you have a really good business idea and it goes well and you make a lot of money, then you can pump more money into it. But like everything being equal, it's like, well, and that's why there's a lot of people talking about kind of a permanent underclass as well. It's like, yeah, the AI they have access to on a free tier will keep getting better, but they're always way behind everybody else, right?
It's kind of like the rising tide raises all ships.
Yeah.
But so, and this is the thing with capitalism, not to make this like political or economical or whatever, but capitalism seems to raise the bar for everyone, even the poorest class. Over time, you can get a better quality of life over a long period of time with capitalism. Now that gap between the poorest class and the upper class might get bigger, but the poorest class is still going up, right? Mm-hmm. And so is that similar to the AI models where the free or the lowest tier models are still improving over time? So everyone's usage with it is improving, but the top models are just so much better that gap just gets wider and wider.
Well, and then how much you can use it. So, GPT 5.6 came out. If you're on the free tier, I don't know if you get access to Soul, but let's say you do, it's like you only have a certain amount of usage per month and then you max it out, right? Well, if you go on a paid tier, now you can use it more. If you go on a 5X, you can use it more. If you go on a 20X, you can use it even more and get more done. So even if you're using the same model, you have access to more of it by paying more, If you went then on to full just API billing and you spend $1 million a month on the same model, you're going to get a lot more done.
Right.
Yeah. So, but the interesting thing is also, which kind of counteracts that, is open models running locally on hardware. Hardware is getting better, and that's kind of what Meta with their latest models is kind of going, and they were open sourcing some of the very first LLMs as well, Llama and whatnot. So Muse Glimmer is open source. It'll run on you still need a hefty GPU to do it, but I haven't tested it myself. But like, that's another thing that's going to be going. But again, you need the money. You need $5-10 grand to have a machine that can run it. But then once you have that, you have no token costs. You just have electricity bill.
So it's like an upfront investment, but down the road, you end up saving a lot of money because you're running your own server.
Well, exactly, because it's like, okay, if I'm now spending what I'm spending a month now, if I put that out a year, I'm spending, that probably a good $7 grand. Now, if those open source models start to be good enough that it can do what I need it to do, well, then it's worthwhile to me to plunk down $7 grand or 10 grand on a computer system that can run those 24/7. I can be using tokens way more than I would be using now. So then I'm saving money, actually, So it really comes down to, it's like, how much can you pay for intelligence, right? That's gonna affect how much you can use it and how much it's going to optimize your working and put you forward, and you get stuff done, you know? So
one thing that's interesting about this that I want to bring up is like, as you get access to more intelligence, the job kind of changes because you can get so much done. Like you said, with these chips coming out that OpenAI is developing, and now Anthropic, it's like for the coding work, anyone that's used Claude Code or Codex right now, it's like, you know, it's pretty fast, but like you said, when these chips come out, it's like just so much faster. So you can get a lot of work done, but you can also get a lot of work done in the wrong direction if you're not flying the plane, basically.
Yeah.
In the correct direction, because
well, you don't have to be flying the plane. You just have to be the one who puts out the flight plan.
Right. Yeah.
And make sure that it stays on the flight plan, you know.
Because but so now it's like it's actually more thinking work for humans.
Yeah.
Because you have all this manpower. It's like, imagine if I gave you a 100-man team that was skilled in anything you can think of, and I said, okay, go do something with it. It's like, that's a lot of overwhelm for you, right? As the person setting the direction and all of this, it's like, well, it's like, unless you have a lot of experience running teams and setting strategic direction and stuff, it's like, that's a huge overwhelm. And I think that's actually a spot that a lot of business owners that are thinking about AI, they get stuck on, because they're already so busy managing the day-to-day and reaction and, you know, the whole important versus urgent tasks and all of this. It's like, if I added a 100-man team to their plate, it's like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, that's where the beauty of it is again, as systems are getting better and how you build them is, you know, it's the one agent to rule them all, you know? So basically that's what I've done for myself is I've got lots of projects. They have multiple agents, but I basically got one agent that kind of manages and runs all of them. And so I really only deal with one agent anymore. Occasionally where it needs, you know, visual reference or something, I will jump in and directly to an agent to tell it to do stuff, but that's becoming more rare. I just get reports, you know.
That's cool.
So it is very much it is the high level thinking and management, you know, type of things.
Yeah.
You know, if you're used to being just told what to do, and then suddenly you get a whole team of guys that you tell them what to do, it's like, well, you have to know what is it that you want to get achieved, you know, and what's the end goal, and some sort of understanding of how to get there, you know.
Yeah. What does success look like? You know, what's the yeah. Oh, that's cool.
But like in terms of in the short term, like the new models that have come out, both like all of them, but like on Anthropics and on OpenAI, one area that they've gotten really good at is now a lot of the knowledge work. So like in office situations and doing things like that's one thing I guess in the training they focused on the last round. So that's where like kind of agents coming in and helping and do stuff is, I think, is going to be kind of the next little boom as well, if you know how to optimize and set it up and use it. So that's the challenge. If you're not used to that and thinking like that, it can be overwhelming. You know, if you're not a tinkerer, you know, if you just want to get stuff done, then, you know, and that comes into it's like, well, even if you're willing to pay for, you know, a monthly account, it's like, well, would you have the time to learn how to use it?
Yeah.
And if it's not kind of an area of your interest, well, you're not going to spend the time unless you're really forced to, you know.
Well, and that's the thing is like anyone can go create a subscription and can set this up and, you know, boom, boom, boom. But it's kind of like that example that you give that I've heard you give before in terms of baking bread. It's like everyone has all the ingredients in their home to bake their own bread, but we still go to the store and buy it because it's convenient. I don't want to mess around with, you know, baking bread, even though it's like, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, and so it's the same thing with this. It's like, I think a lot of business owners, especially that I've spoken with, it's just like, they just want it done for them. They just want to be able to, you know, text their agent or email their agent and get the result. They don't want to tinker with the, you know, prompts and the weights and blah, blah, blah. It's like, so that's why I'm excited about what we're doing in our agency in terms of rolling out these agents for businesses as like a done for you service, a done for you and managed for you, because I think there's just a lot of people that don't want to even bother tinkering, right? So
yeah. And even if they're interested, if they're a successful business, like, are they going to have time to, a CEO start tinkering with, agents,